I love the idea of books. There is something that is just so much more physical and tangible about something all written out in your hands rather than a screen in an abstract dimensional space of reality where we can only access with our technology. Don't get me wrong, it's incredibly powerful and impressive, but take away our power and it's all lost. Archaeologists will not have any ancient texts to recover from a history long forgotten, perhaps because it will never be forgotten again, but perhaps not. Um, they won't be digging in the dirt of ancient times, but rather through the internet history and memory fragments of a world that lived within the internet more than without. This being said, I like the possibility that I can grab and access a book when I want it. When I want it, it is there. All the words and all the potential knowledge and wisdom written out for me to interpret. So I'm going to start with this last part because I think this is the part that's the most relevant to what I was like my initial reasoning for why I love the idea of books so much. And it's because, as I said here, the entire book is there, right? It's there, it's in your hands, right? And as long as it doesn't get destroyed, right, you can read it and have access to all of the information that could ever be possibly extracted from it. Like any possible insights you could ever get from the book are there in your hand already, right? Because the entirety of what the book is in your hands. So it's almost it's almost like a key that is unlocking something in your brain, right? The words on the page are keys that unlock thoughts in your brain, unlock ideas in your brain. And it's all just there in your hand, right? So, holding my phone in my hand, right, I have access to the internet, right, and all of the potential of the internet, right? However, if my phone runs out of battery, I run out of access to all of that information. But like I said, as long as you don't destroy the book, you could put it on a shelf, come back in 20 years, and have it still be readable, and you didn't have to do anything. You didn't have to do anything to it. You didn't have to, charge it up, or you didn't have to, make any updates to it. It just exists. It was made, and now it just is, right? And I don't know. I feel like in some ways, like it's just different, right? It's just different. And I really like it. I like that, as I said, the entire thing is in my hand, right? Because when you're reading on your phone, like you only have whatever is on that page at a time, right? Or if you're reading on like online, you only have access to whatever it is you're looking at that moment, right? You have access to everything, but only that one thing in that one instant. Whereas if you have the books, right, they all go on your shelf, right? And you can access any of them whenever, in theory, forever, right? And so, I don't know. I just feel like it's a little different, and I like it. I think it's really cool. And I feel like some of that charm is lost in technology because I feel like because technology allows us to have access to so much more information and to store so much more information, the quality of it is reduced, right? Because there's so much quantity and there's so much ability to have quantity. The quality is poorer, right? There's a whole lot of, there's just more out there, right? And I feel like that's not always a good thing. And as I said here, one thing that I think is interesting is, I mean, potentially society and, civilization will never collapse again because we're so technologically advanced. I feel like that's debatable, right? But we'll just say, for the sake of argument, we will never run out. We will never have a failure, right? Again, right? So we will only continue to progress. We will never regress, right? So if we never regress back, right, and we just continue forward, archaeology of the future will be more digging through old databases and files and things like that on the internet rather than actually something in the physical world. Because as we have developed this technology, the younger and younger generations spend more and more of their lives online than offline. And so if you want to understand the people, of the past, as someone from the future, you have to literally look online, because that's where more of their life is. That's where there's more information. That's where you're going to get, just a better idea of who they were. And I feel like that's so bizarre because, it's just never been the case before. So thinking of that being the future is just so crazy that archaeologists won't be digging in the dirt. They'll be digging through data. And that just seems so crazy to me. And I don't know. I mean, I guess it's just my perspective. To me, I've lived in a world where that's not the case, so it seems bizarre, and maybe eventually it won't feel as wrong, right? But it feels weird. They won't be digging in the dirt of ancient times, but rather through the internet, history and memory fragments of a world that lived within the internet more than without. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like technology is really cool, but at the same time, there's just some charm to the simplicity of, I mean, books are still technically technology, but it's just on such a simple level compared to a lot of what we have today. And I don't know. I like it. I don't know. Yeah. I just think books are better. I don't know. I decided that having a library is a must-have for me. I want to have a small library because I feel at one point, if you had a library in rich people, they had libraries in their houses and oh, and this is my library, right? Because at one point it was a flex to have a library because books were crazy expensive. So to have a library, you had a lot of money. But nowadays, I mean, books aren't cheap. I mean, it also depends on the books you're buying, but it's a lot more affordable than it once was. So having a library is a very easy thing to do. And I feel like it's just, I don't know, I think it's cool that say the world, goes into some kind of apocalypse or whatever, right? You still have all of these books that you could read and learn from, even though the rest of the world has collapsed and is in chaos. You still have all of this information. And I think that is I don't know. I think that that's pretty darn cool. I don't know. Peace out.